Hi, this is Jeff Curto, and welcome to episode number 73 of Camera Position, a podcast about the creative side of photography. First of all, I'd like to congratulate t-shirt winners. T-shirt winners Linda, Ryan, Rex, and Tom. I actually ended up giving away 4 t-shirts as we had a couple of tie emails that came in. And I'll periodically give away some of that stuff, some of the camera position tchotchke that you can get from the link right on the Camera Position blog page if anybody is interested in some of those things, coffee mugs and all that kind of stuff. So, get your daily dose of camera position and wear your camera position flag proud. The other thing I wanted to mention is to thank the couple of people who have donated to Camera Position, John and Tim. I really appreciate your donations. Really makes a big difference in terms of knowing that people appreciate what I'm doing and are supporting it in that way. So thank you very much for those donations. The Tuscany workshop is full. We've got some very exciting photographers coming along with us. I'm very thrilled by the response from the public out there, and hopefully we'll certainly have a great time. Those of us who are going, and those of you who are not going, plans are already in place or underway for workshops in the 2010 year, and we're taking some of the suggestions that we got from some of you out there in the world and incorporating those into our plans for 2010. So stay tuned to photographitaly.com and, of course, to this podcast for more information about the upcoming workshops in 2010. And lastly, in the sort of set of announcements here, I would like to welcome all of those new listeners. I was delighted that Apple featured Camera Position prominently in an email blast about photography podcasts, and Camera Position was featured right up there in the front, and I was really thrilled by that. And we have, for that reason, a ton of new listeners. And those of you who are new to Camera Position, welcome, and understand that most of the episodes of Camera Position are enhanced podcasts. An enhanced podcast is a podcast that is not just audio, but also audio that includes visuals. And if you're playing the podcast in your iPod or on your iPod, you can see it in the screen of your iPod. If you are playing Camera Position on iTunes, the lower left corner of your screen will show changing visuals that will change as you go along. You can also randomly access those using the chapters menu that will appear in iTunes as soon as you start playing the podcast. Or you can play the podcast in QuickTime Player. And using QuickTime Player, you can play it outside of the iTunes interface. Something about the iTunes interface a lot of people don't know, though, is that window in the lower left corner where the images are displayed. You can do one of two things with it. You can either drag it to be quite a bit bigger, or you can click on it, and it will open a much larger window that you can drag to wherever you want it to be and drag it to whatever size you'd like it to be. So certainly give that a try for some of the visuals that are in Camera Position. I try to put at least some of the visuals on the cameraposition.com blog page, but I don't always get all of them on there. So the visuals that I sometimes reference are always in the Camera Position podcast file itself. So again, welcome to those new users, and thanks for joining us. Well, it won't come as a surprise to people who listen to Camera Position frequently that I am a big advocate of project-based photography. I think the notion of creating project-based photographs helps photographers build a sense of style, gives them a sense of purpose, and more importantly, helps them avoid that sort of one-shot wonder. Here's a terrific picture. What else have you got? This episode of Camera Position is going to be the first of a series that I'm going to do about planning projects, about doing projects and planning projects. And I've had a lot of people ask me about this, and this is something that I've been sort of dallying with, certainly making projects on my own and watching other people make projects and doing a lot of things regarding that. So what we're going to do is spend some time over the next several podcast episodes looking at a roadmap for planning a project, the photographer's roadmap for project planning. Defining and creating a project, I think, is one of the most useful ways to build a body of work, to learn about yourself and your response to photography, and to create something that is visually and conceptually cohesive. The mere act of defining a project is useful in that it helps you set goals, create a direction, and even do things like figure out how many images you will need, how long it will take you to produce the work, and where and how the project will be seen when it's completed. I think one of the best things about a project is that it can help you to be productive, and it helps you do that by providing you with direction, with some clarity, and with a goal, and to give yourself a reason to produce some work. And every project needs a plan, whether it's a photographic project or an around-the-house kind of a project. You got to have a plan, because without a plan, you not only don't know how to start, but you don't even know how to get started thinking about getting started. And I think for a lot of people, just the whole process of getting started on a project is complicated, so hopefully I'm going to try to help you unravel those problems. More importantly, if you don't have a plan, you don't know where you're going to end up, and while the act of creation as photographers I think is a vital part of being an artist, it's the product of a project that's probably the most important part for both the creator and for the audience. If we look at the work of the world's great photographers, past and present, and certainly Camera Position has looked at a lot of different photographers' work, and knowing many of you out there, I know that many of you look at a lot of photographers' work, and it's fairly obvious once you look at photographers' work that photographers, the great ones, tend to work on things that they're passionate about, and they tend to explore that passion over a long period of time. Think of your favorite photographer, and you'll likely be able to identify a particular area of interest or even a particular subject matter they've become known for. Essentially, great photographers are really great storytellers. They're extremely adept at distilling a particular concept into its essence, and then, communicating that essence to the viewers of their photographs. So the story a photographer tells is a part of what is often referred to as a photographer's style, and helps define who they are as artists. So just as with any art form, getting good is about finding something to say and then practicing and practicing to find the best way to say it. In other words, a photographer's projects define the photographer. So over the course of the next few podcast sessions, we're going to work through the process of planning a photographic project. We'll begin with passion and mission. What do you want to do? Where do you want to end up? How are you going to define and create the idea behind this project? Then we'll move on to production strategies and goals. How will you get this work done? Do you have a deadline or a time frame that you'd like to work within? Do you have some sort of time frame that you need to work within? Do you have some sort of deadline looming out there that requires you to produce work for it? An exhibition, a publication, really just anything you can think of that is a deadline. We'll then move on to audience and distribution. To whom are you hoping to show this work? And just as importantly, how will that work best be seen? And we'll examine a variety of ways that are not necessarily the traditional matted print route of displaying work. And lastly, we'll talk about assets and organization. How do you keep track of what you're making? How do you know where it is? How do you find it when you need it? And we'll look at a number of tools that are out there in the world now that help us to organize our work and help us to make sense of where things are and be able to keep things where we want them so that we can find them. This section will explore some things about Adobe Photoshop Lightroom and Apple Aperture and other digital asset management applications that are out there that can help us not only work with our images and edit them, but also organize where they are and how we can access them in a convenient way. We'll talk about keywording. We'll talk about all kinds of digital asset management strategies that can help you keep your project on track. For each general idea that I've outlined, we'll try to become fairly familiar with the basic concepts of project planning for photographers. And we're going to explore some concrete steps for implementing those concepts for your photographic projects. At the end of this group of podcasts, I hope that one of the things you'll have is a project that's targeted to your needs and interests, and more than likely the needs and interests of others as well,
a target audience. And that project will not only be one that is uniquely yours, but it will also be something that you can learn from for future projects in terms of how to get a project begun and how a project progresses and how to keep your project on track, organized, and targeted. So stay tuned for the future episodes here where we'll begin to talk about the ideas behind photographic project planning. And really just for now, in between this podcast and the next episode of Camera Position, think about what you're interested in. Think about what things you like in this world that you can parlay into a photographic project. And that's where we'll begin on the next episode of Camera Position, a podcast about the creative side of photography. Camera Position is a proud member of the Photocast Network, your photo resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com